the average meeting time in Roam is 8 minutes, which mind meld there, right? Like standard meetings are often for most of us 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 45 maybe, or something wonky if someone's creative.
They always go longer, right?
They always go longer. And like, I don't know, you tell me, before COVID, I feel like if we had a 30-minute meeting and we were done at minute 17 or 18, we'd probably all be like, all right, we good here, let's go. Whereas today, we fill each of those meeting buckets because people are craving those interactions.
This episode is brought to you by TestBox.
Lexi, it's so good to see you.
It's great to be here.
It's great to finally meet you in person.
Finally.
I know.
We're here.
It's like, this has been the best thing about Pre-Sales Collective is I've met all these amazing people over the last couple of years and built these relationships, but it's all been done virtually. Like half the time, I don't even know if I've met somebody in person or not, because I think like you, we've talked
many times.
So many times. So it's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Congrats on your new job and your new promotion. So
thank you.
I'm very excited to dig into that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think for me, I've always looked up to you and like what you've done as a solution leader, right? Because I think we're wired similarly, where it's like you're solutions oriented, but you're business minded. And I feel being an SC has been a superpower, right?
Oh my gosh,
being able to do so much more, right?
Yeah, it's the best job that exists.
It really is, right?
The best.
And I feel like people like you are really leading the edge of like what solutions professionals can do. And so I'm excited to dig into that today. Yeah, so for everyone listening and watching, like tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us your title, and really, because you have such an interesting background, like tell us what got you here.
Yeah. So I am a couple weeks into my new role at Roam. Roam is a virtual work platform, super fun, exciting. We came out of beta in February, so it's all very new. I'm managing director at Roam, so kind of all things revenue and figuring it out as we grow and scale. And before that, I was a decade plus at Yext. Joined in 2014 there as an individual contributor. We were getting ready to build out the enterprise, kind of had a core set of enterprise customers, but figuring out the motion. And it was a really nice parlay for me from my background at IBM. I started my career at IBM out of school on the consulting side, but did a bunch of integration consulting work. So when I started at Yext, we were a single product, really revolutionizing what had been a manual process or kind of a sell your data process for a lot of our customers to one where we said, hey, we can do this in real time using APIs. But none of those people were really integrated in the way that they could see the value of that. And so that was my first observation when I started, which was my foray into the solutions world. And so building out kind of enterprise architecture conversations in the pre-sale, I found myself getting pulled into doing that with a lot of our AEs, like, hey, we're going to be in Memphis for this customer. Can you come to a pitch with me? Which I loved and was energized by. And so that was really the launch pad to starting the SE org, me, myself, and I for a while. And as we were scaling and growing, brought in some Salesforce leadership, brought in some leaders who were very used to that SE role, and kind of brought that excitement to scale and grow it. And so before our IPO, we said, all right, hey, let's do this thing, let's scale it. And that was the beginning of the story. Yeah, so scaled the SEs, grew that team internationally as the company grew, helped open some of those markets. We built out a lot of those classic sub-functions in the SE organization, solution architects, value engineers, demo engineers, and kind of hit this inflection point that we realized our traditional CSM role was changing or needed to change in a way that the SEs were getting pulled in a lot. The SEs were kind of that partner in crime to the AE in the way that a CSM had been for so many years. And so what did this three-party system look like instead of the two? So I stepped in to lead our global CSM team. And pretty quickly we realized we wanted to bring back that classic chief customer officer type role at Yext. So we brought the SEs, the CSMs, professional services, and the support org at the time together globally to really think about what those roles look like, what should they look like, and putting the customer back in the center of those decisions versus the things the special role here, the new role here as we scaled quickly and said, oh, this will be a benefit to the customer, but really it created a lot of confusion.
Yeah. that. And I love what you did there. I want to talk about it more because
Yeah.
you're right. We create these silos internally and we have best intentions, but it just results in clunky handoffs and a poor customer experience,
Totally.
right? What were some of the learnings or, maybe wins on that consolidated function and group that
Yeah.
you created?
I mean, I think the wins were ultimately for the customer, right? I think they were so thankful when we came to them and said, "Hey, it's going to be a little rocky for a bit. We're going to figure this thing out. We want to hear from you. Give us your feedback." And I think resoundingly, what we heard was, "We want to talk to one person."
Yeah.
And so I think that was resoundingly at the end of the day the benefit. I think we also learned a lot about the team themselves and kind of career goals and
Yeah.
skill sets and what that looked like to be able to give people opportunity to tee them up in different areas. And I think, we'll dig into this, but I think we learned that the buyer and the customer themselves are upskilling in sophistication and their technical acumen and the things they're looking for and the access to information. I mean, the ability to find competitive battle cards and all the things that took a while or we all hoped were kind of behind closed doors are all out there.
Yeah. You can't hide anymore. Everything's out there, right? And peer reviews, social proof, it's all there. One of the things that I know was really critical to this is the enablement aspect of this, right? Can you talk a little bit more about what you did from an enablement perspective to get the team up to speed?
So our first bet was let's basically take our CSM organization globally through our SE enablement. A new SE that comes in, and our whole idea was like, let's upskill the CS organization to be that foundational level SE from a product and technical knowledge to allow the SEs to then take the next step to go through their journey technically. And so we did that. We rolled out product by product. We kind of had a 6-8 month time frame where we wanted the team to go through. We brought a SE leader over to lead the CS in North America and kind of planted a few individual contributor SEs as CSMs to get that cross-pollination and help build from the ground up. So that was the starting point. Didn't all go perfectly.
It never does.
It never does. It never does. And I think in a lot of cases it was having conversations with the team on, hey, this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
What's your career journey look like? And I think that led to a lot of really fruitful conversations from a career building perspective of, hey, are you looking for a more commercially oriented role? And maybe some CSMs that were like, actually, I'm kind of allergic to this idea. I want to maybe take the leap and be an AE in ways that they hadn't been ready for that yet. And so there was a lot of really good learnings across the board.
Yeah, I love that. I think one more thing I want to dig in on is the idea that customers want to talk to someone who is delivering value at all times, right? I have traditionally had a lot of points of views that, hey, I don't want a CSM to come into the conversation just to give some update that I could do on my own, and I have to go get someone that can deliver information. I also have taken a little bit of heat on my points of view around customer success generally. I think I've got a camp of people who really believe in this, but at the same time are also a little bit adverse to the change that needs to happen. So I'm curious, like I also have this thesis based off all the research that I've done over the last couple of years is that when you take a solutions professional and put them in charge of the CSM function, it has a massive impact on the business because the way we think about value. So do you have any examples of that you could share?
Yeah. So we had one of our top SEs in North America had been in the SE, came from a consulting background for a couple of years, stepped into the SE role, was just absolutely crushing it. We said, hey, from a career perspective, diversify, step into the CS role. We're making this big change. You're going to have a huge impact on the company because you're going to have a bigger impact on the team to get them thinking the way you think. And it'll be great career rounding for you to see a different perspective, own the customer. So we convinced him to do that. And he immediately stepped into a book of business with a customer who had been a longtime customer that was not happy with us. Not happy with us for a variety of reasons. And I think some of the ways that the team had previously been trying to solve those problems were falling short for a variety of reasons. His mindset, his thinking, going back to value and solution orientation and kind of going back to why they bought in the first place and trying to help understand and put those pieces together Wasn't easy, certainly, but he was able to, through relationships, through proving value in every opportunity he had to interface with that customer, turn that relationship around. So much so that they were willing to speak at our investor day like 6 months later
That's a big turnaround.
as like a spokesperson for value and what they saw. So that was like one of the best. It's like, this is the shining gold star of what we're trying to do here. And like, let's help everybody be in a position to have those conversations and really focus on value.
Yes, I love that, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I think you need those wins, and you need to share those wins amongst the company to get people bought in, right?
Totally.
Because I think when you make shifts like this, and even I've experienced this at Test Boxes, people are like, well, what does this mean for me, right? And we know from an organization perspective, this is the best thing for the customer, right? And you're gonna need to get those wins and to get people bought into the journey and aligned to what you're doing and why it actually matters, right? And I love that you've talked about career journey and diversifying, because people like ourselves, diversifying has been the best thing that's ever happened in my career, right? Being able to try different things. And so I want to shift our focus a little bit more to what you're doing in your new role and at your new company. And one of the things that I'm really curious, right, is everyone is talking about go-to-market shifting, right? I think we know the playbooks that we've been running over the last decade are likely not going to work. And so is there one big trend in go-to-market that you think is shaping the future, and how are you as a company responding to that?
Yeah, so one detail that I'll give, because it'll be helpful in my new role, but before I left Yext, I was leading enterprise sales in North America. And so, having not really been an AE at the company myself, it was early. I think for a lot of people, it was like, oh, how's this going to go, right? And being an SE-minded leader, much of my team I had worked with just on the other side of the house. And so it was, I think, a shift in what are the things I'm asking for? How are we preparing differently as we go into the sales process, which was really a lot of learning. And I think I bring that into my role here at Roam as I thought about, my next chapter and where I wanted to go. I had grown up and seen over the last decade at Yext so much change, right? I started in 2014, pre-IPO, small team, 30 million in revenue, to post-IPO, 400 in revenue, ton of change, ton of different roles, global experience, all of that. But it was all kind of the classic SaaS sales-led go-to-market, selling to a marketer, kind of a consistent ICP throughout that. And so as I thought about, really, again, back to the theme of diversification and seeing new, to be, the next generation operator that I want to be, I needed to see something different. And so at Roam, we're on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, right? We have very little on our website in terms of, the traditional things that you'd have there. We want to drop people right into an immersive experience for the product. So what, an SE would probably traditionally do, or would be gated behind, like, talk to XYZ person.
Totally.
We want to get it out there, and we want people to be able to self-serve. And in many cases, that means we're skipping a lot of the people that traditionally are in that kind of revenue flow.
Right. That's so interesting, and I want to dig into this a little bit more. Well, one, can you go maybe one step deeper into like what that actually means? Like, what is that experience that somebody comes to your website? You said it's not traditional, the product's there. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. I mean, so oftentimes, you can think more forward-looking companies put a video of a demo, or there's so many tools out there now that allow you to do that. But in many cases, like, videos can be edited, all the things, right? And Howard, our founder, talks a lot about, the riskiest thing to do on stage is a live demo, right? Almost 100%. No one does it. It's scary. And that's what we've kind of decided we want to try to do for every prospect that comes to the site. Like, give them that experience to go through, click through a self-guided self-demo, feel the software, be in it, and really then get someone to where they want to go without having to have human intervention as far along as they can go. So for us, that means a big chunk, like over 50% of people are opting to go their own way and kind of drop into a free trial and a self-guided flow. And the conversion from the free trial is so high. And I think we're in the process of doing a ton of testing of kind of those Easter eggs of, do I want to self-guide, or do I want to talk to a person? And so there's certainly people who have those questions, want to talk to a person. But rather than saying, hey, we'll get let's schedule, we'll send you an email and we'll calendar it for a month from now, like is so often the way.
So often.
We're trying to come up with ways to make all of ourselves available so that, if you want to drop into our office that afternoon to talk to a person or right on the spot, you can do that rather than the, schedule for 2 weeks from now and then your mind has gone off to the next thing. So that kind of immediate gratification, instant gratification, you go to buy like $1,000 shoes and you can buy them on the spot.
Yeah.
You have the intent, you go into the store, you try your size, you buy them.
Yes.
You should be able to buy software in the same way.
I love it. I love that you're doing that, and I think it's so intriguing. I think with Pre-Sales Collective, we talked for years about like speed and personalization and B2C bleeding into B2B. And so like this is the epitome of that right now.
Totally.
Yeah. For you, how do you have to rethink that first time user experience then? Because if you're saying like someone could drop in the office, they can drop on a call with you. There's all these things that go against the traditional way that we've approached buying software.
Total mindset shift.
Yeah.
I mean, total mindset shift. And it's not just, I think I've talked a lot about the pre-sale experience, right? And that POC or trial experience and the decision to buy because you see value enough. We could spend a lot of time talking about that design, but what happens then once you've come out of free trial, for us, it's not an annual contract, it's monthly. So total mindset shift.
Total mindset. Wow.
Versus the lock in annual upfront, get that ARR. We talk a lot about the shift from an annual to a monthly puts the pressure on us to deliver and earn your business every month.
Literally the next question I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. And so when we think about customer experience, when we think about value on a day-to-day basis, month-by-month basis, we're shipping software all the time, right?
Sure.
And the influence of a product request is a lot more impactful for us when we have to deliver monthly than it is like, hey, get in the queue and sure, your renewals. When's your renewal? Oh, okay, we'll get that in the queue. And I think that is just a total shift in thinking on what does the customer experience look like? How are they contributing to the way we think and build a product versus, here's how we're going to build. Maybe we'll add your suggestions into the roadmap.
Maybe, right? And then you get to renewal, like, oh, we got a plan to do it.
Yeah.
Can you highlight your ICP though? Because I can tell there's people listening, they're like, well, that's not going to work for my business, right? So like talk about your ICP and why this works for them.
It's kind of all over the map. Right now, kind of companies in this size range of 5 to 200, 5 to 300 in scale. So certainly we're not way up market in terms of size and scale right now. But the type of company is kind of all over the map. Roam is a virtual work platform. So any type of company, be in medicine, in software, in media, agencies, like baby company, like anything where you have distributed employees. There's a lot to think about, and there's a lot of different use cases. But for the most part, it's a CEO founder decision right now, because if you're going to have your company on a remote work platform, you're all going to do it. Or maybe one department is going to do it, right? So that's kind of the mix that we're in right now. So we'll see.
That's really interesting. And so I want to kind of pair two things. So one, delivering value on a monthly basis is incredibly hard to do, right? So how are you rethinking that approach beyond just like product requests? And two, how does that differentiate between a SaaS company versus a pharma company versus med device company? Like talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. I think the monthly value and what we're doing beyond just product requests really is how do we expose what they're doing, what their teams are doing. For us, it's like, okay, you're engaging in the platform, but what does spontaneity, what does culture building, what does productivity mean to you as a company? Because in today's world, remote distributed teams oftentimes feel the pain of challenges in building culture because there's nothing that replaces in real life and in person. But it's possible. It's possible to build relationships like we have, right? Totally. Like it's possible to do it, but how do you do it? And how do you use software to facilitate spontaneity or, the little things? Like I'll give an example. I was chatting with a teammate last Friday virtually. And I had a quick question. I dropped into his office, and because we were having a verbal conversation versus one in Slack, we ended. It was like mid-Friday afternoon, and I was like, "Hey, what are you up to this weekend?" Heard about it, learned a little bit about him, and then that gives me the opportunity. I don't know, a week or two later, to be like, "Hey, how was that?" Or next time I see him in person, we have something to talk about.
Right.
Whereas in Slack, I never would have ended it with, "Oh, how's your weekend?"
So with you on
And so that then extrapolate those little micro moments into what does value mean. So how do you help articulate that to somebody who's trying to justify why they want to spend again the next month on that software? How do you look at things like productivity in new ways, meeting times for us? So the average meeting time in Roam is 8 minutes, which mind meld there, right? Like standard meetings are often for most of us 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 45 maybe, or something wonky if someone's creative.
They always go longer, right?
They always go longer. And like, I don't know, you tell me, before COVID, I feel like if we had a 30-minute meeting and we were done at minute 17 or 18, we'd probably all be like, all right, we good here, let's go. Whereas today, we fill each of those meeting buckets because people are craving those interactions. And it's like, I might only have James today now for this 30 minutes. Let me cram in these other things.
That's
or
totally how my life is
like
right now.
stay on, sadly, like maybe I'm not contributing to the rest of the meeting, but these extra 15 minutes, I can multitask and do something else, and no one else is going to snag me. And so as we think about, again, back to value, why delivering monthly is important, like things are changing so quickly. And so how can we stay on our toes and help our customers quantify what those value moments are for them? So yeah, I don't know, it's work in progress.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so interesting. And, I've always, I think Slack and like these messaging tools are a blessing and a curse, right? Like I feel like people always ask me at Pre-Sales Collective, like, oh, do I need a Slack community? It's like, it does add value, but it's not the answer, right? And I think even for myself, I find that I tend to get things lost in translation when I'm trying to communicate via Slack, and I just have tried to just get rid of it now. But to your point, I crave that in person. Like I've always been in-person manager, right? And so, remote and COVID just changed my perspective. And so that's why I love being face-to-face with this type of conversations. I love the work that you're doing. And one of the things that I'm trying to figure out, right, is what are these unconventional strategies that companies are doing today that will be more common in a year or two? And let me give a little more validation on this, is that when I started posting about this aligned function, I had a lot of people who've known me for years be like, James, I totally disagree with you, right? Like, you're wrong. And I just got really great validation recently where an executive reached out to me. It was like, you know what? I disagreed with you when you were doing this and didn't think it was the right approach. And the more that I've thought about it, I've realized that a handoff inherently is flawed. So no matter how I've tried to fix it, it's always going to be broken because a handoff is broken. And he's like, I've come around and I'm going to try to introduce this rule in my organization. So I love that, right?
Congrats.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, that felt good.
That's amazing.
I like to think that, people like yourself, myself, some others have been on the bleeding edge of this. And so I'm just curious on the unconventional strategy. Is it the website experience, right? Because as someone who now oversees marketing, right, there's such a mindset of like what your website should do. What should your messaging be? What is the first time user experience? How do you quantify impact? How do you measure? And I'm a solution professional. I'm just like, I don't want to think about it like that. I want to think about it differently. So I don't know, is the one, unconventional strategy, the first time user experience that you're doing today, is it something else?
Man, I think there's so many layers.
There's so many.
There's so many layers, right?
So,
And I think some of the pushback you and I for years experienced was, hey, that might work for the ICP of a more technical buyer, right? Like, oh, that works when you're in a consumption model and you want somebody to be along, like a solution professional, to be along for the journey from the pre-sale to, hey, I'm a year and a half in, but more consume, right? But for the traditional SaaS license-based model, like, maybe not. Or for maybe the MarTech audience, like, maybe not. And I think that we now are at a place to really have a lot more ammo to challenge that because it comes back to the buyer is becoming that much more sophisticated. And not to say that the MarTech buyer before wasn't as sophisticated, but there were a lot of other people influencing those decisions. And there were persistent relationships. It was like, hey, we're going to renew because we've worked with these people. And there was a lot more to be said about relationships and what the traditional AE role looked like in that sale
Yes.
versus
Yes.
how that's changing today.
Yes.
And so I hope that maybe some
Yeah.
of the naysayers, who, by the way, we always need naysayers, so
We
love them,
absolutely need 'em.
right?
Yes.
But like are maybe changing their mindset because they're feeling that too, and
Yes.
they're seeing it.
Right.
And it's not just that from a more technical sale and
Yeah.
product
Yeah.
needs that way. It's kind of everyone wants a simpler, more consolidated. So whether it's obviously the buying experience from a website to honestly like the day-to-day experience of a customer and who they're speaking with, and somebody who has that context from their pain points in the beginning to, you know, what their value looks like as they're optimizing and actually using a product, and what their decision might be when they're thinking about renewal and consolidation and all the things that are going into that buying journey today. And I think the instincts of a solution professional are to always come back to that, which is value.
Yes.
And so to have somebody who's inherently trained that way in all facets of that user journey, I think is ultimately what people need as, I mean, every buying decision is under pressure in ways that none of us have seen, right?
You're right. So right. I love that response. And, you know, I want to shift our focus to you specifically, right? Because as we talk about the naysayers and we talk about thinking about this differently, it takes people like yourself that have been on the leading edge of this to make these changes and put yourself out there, right? So, you know, how hard was it to make that shift? Let's use the Yext example where you decided to consolidate the function. And how did you approach just being like, hey, I'm going to put this out there, and what are the negative consequences of this not working?
Yeah. So I think in many cases, a little bit of my confidence came from, you know, being a known entity at a company. I'd been there for a long time. I was known, people knew me, I was trusted, which certainly helps a lot as you're trying to then put together maybe controversial ideas. And we started off from, you know, influence and inspiration from some of our friends at Datadog and Snowflake and some of the more technical, you know, buyer journeys, kind of inspired of like hey, we might be able to actually combine these roles into one. So when you and I started conversations, I think I was at that point like, hey, we're actually gonna maybe try to combine an SE and a CS role into one. And it certainly does work in some organizations. In other cases, it doesn't. And having them separated, or maybe that first leap isn't to go full consolidation, but it's to bring the functions together and then do what we did from an enablement journey and upskilling. And so the starting point for me was like hey, you know, you've asked me to oversee these functions. For a lot of reasons of efficiency, of bringing teams together. We know something's broken here, but I want to throw something crazy out there. Like maybe we actually combine these roles. And does that allow us to, you know, from a team and efficiency perspective, like everyone was under pressure of like, hey, do we have too many people? And is this a way for us to consolidate, be leaner, be more efficient, but still have the value and impact to the customer? And I think we decided, so there was a lot of questions.
There always are.
But I think there was a lot of, like, from the start, excitement about like, okay, I see this. And I think it's the way we presented it was all based on a lot of the things we traditionally think about, putting the customer first, the value, the why, the why, the why. The cons, obviously, okay, are we going to lose great talent, right? And very fairly, maybe they don't want to be part of that thing, and that's okay, right? It's probably best for them too if they're looking to achieve something else. And so that journey for us at Yext landed in hey, we're going to keep the two distinct roles, but we're going to go on this journey to really upskill from a product and solution mindset orientation, one organization. But I oftentimes found myself, just as I just did, we didn't want to offend our CS talent by saying, hey, we're going to upskill you, right? That can come across as like you're not skilled.
Totally fair.
And
totally
I think the words we use, the way in which we approach it with the team versus leadership is incredibly important. And we certainly didn't get a lot of that right, because top, great, fantastic CSM talent who was brought in to do a role that maybe they were delivering and now we're coming around and saying is changing is sometimes a hard conversation.
It is.
So
yeah, I love it. And I think you have to take risks, right? And my thoughts on the solutions profession is sometimes we're a little risk adverse, right? And
Yeah.
people don't want to take the risk, but
Yeah.
they've got the knowledge, they've got the understanding, they can, make an impact on the organization. And sometimes you just got to step out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um,
Like so many SCs that are
Yeah.
like on the verge of being like, wait, I think I could make a lot more money as an AE.
Totally.
And you're like,
Totally.
no, you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. I would say I've talked to quite a few SCs recently that are trying to make the jump to AE as
Yeah.
well. And I'm like, you'll do fantastic at this job.
Yeah.
Even like you said earlier, like the prep, the way we think about value, the way we do prep, it is different, right? And there'll be places that the SCs struggle when they make that transition. But I love people that are taking a risk to diversify themselves. And, one of the things that I have always tried to do through the platforms of Pre-Sales Collective, Go-to-Market Shift is how do we take people like yourself and share your learnings and give people that confidence that it can be done? Can you provide some tactical advice on leaders who are listening to this and they're like, you know what? They're right. I need to do something, but I'm not really sure where to start. Can you share that?
So a few years ago, I kind of had this realization that there were, of course, a lot of people like me out there that were having these thoughts in their mind. And I needed to make a more concerted effort to build an ecosystem and a network outside of my Yext network, my customer network, et cetera. When you're in your day-to-day, you're at a fast-growing company, you're kind of like, I don't have time for that.
Yes.
And so one piece of tactical advice is make the time. Make time. Start by setting aside an hour every other week, or if that seems like too much, 30 minutes a month. And either reach out blindly to folks on LinkedIn, start following people. There's many steps of the journey depending upon where you are. But give yourself the grace, give yourself the time to network and build a network, because that then just having those conversations and reaching out to folks to learn more about what they're doing, how they're seeing things, that gave me confidence to be like, oh, wait a minute, you're my people. And then that having that network and people to bounce ideas off of and asking what they're seeing, how someone reacted to their presentation of that same idea, gives you the more and more of kind of an amplified network, which then, undoubtedly grows your confidence and like, okay, we're onto something here.
Yeah, I love it. It's been so wonderful talking to you. I really appreciate this. I'm glad we finally got to meet in person.
Yes.
Excuse me. I've always looked up to you and what you've done from a risk-taking position and trying to push the profession forward and push yourself forward. It's very inspirational, and I hope more people aspire to follow in your footsteps. So thanks so much for joining me today and talking about this.
Thanks for having me. It's
course.
been awesome.